Hello and welcome to Monday's Manic Music Media Mondays. So this is normally going to be at 9 a.m. in the morning. First thing in the Monday morning, we're going to get together. We're going to talk about all of the content. We're going to talk about all the media and all of the good things that we watched together that week. Before we really get into anything, let me introduce my name. Let me introduce myself to you. My name is Tyler PSwitch Dow. That P is silent. I'm an artist, digital, creative, rapper, actor, writer. We do a lot of everything. It's 2021. Don't we all do a lot of everything right now? If you check right here, you can see my YouTube page. Feel free to give me a subscribe. You can listen to my music. That's Spotify, but obviously music is everywhere. And as we were saying, today's Manic Music Media Monday, we talk about all of the good content, we talk about all of the good music, we talk about all of the good things that are getting me by, that are helping me feel good about where I am in life. Hopefully you can share some of your opinions with me. Tell me what you're watching. Hopefully put me onto some good stuff, and hopefully I put you onto some good stuff too. Being that this is the first episode and we're not doing it at 9 a.m. We're kind of just doing it as a test run, making sure everything's going correctly. It's going to be a lot more loose, but I am so excited to continue to get more consistent, to continue to do so much more with you. So let's get into it. I mean, there's been so much good television in 2021 already. Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, HBO, probably whatever's on regular broadcasting cable. I don't watch too much of that. If you're a wrestling fan like me, wrestling, there's so much going on and it's hard to keep up with, but I do recognize that I keep up with so much, and so much is on just my normal bandwidth. It's kind of crazy that I forget about so much of it, and a lot of it goes over my head. So not only do we get to talk about things, do we get to exchange things here, but it's also going to give me the opportunity to really express and leave a document of all of the good stuff I've seen over the past year. One of the things that we're going to get into today, I completely forgot I saw. I watched it at like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, went to sleep at 3, 4 in the morning, and woke up and didn't think about it until somebody else mentioned it to me, and now I've been telling and referring it to everybody else. So this is well needed for me, just because we have so much on our capacity, so much in our bandwidth, that I am going to enjoy this. Alright, let's get into it. So we cannot talk about this without getting into Wandavision. Obviously, I understand. Hold on, where's the cursor at? I understand that it's been a few weeks since Wandavision has ended, but it was such a strong show. It made such a strong impact on my life that I don't think I can get by without talking about it. This is the longest we've gone in 10 years since we haven't had an MCU film, since we haven't had really anything of MCU content. And I don't know why, but I'm not saying I wasn't excited about Falcon and Winter Soldier, but there was a idea of me understanding that there wasn't so much change and there's only so much big things that they could do on a Disney Plus show, because there's only a certain subsection of people that are going to watch this Disney Plus show. So you're going to have to keep things a bit normal. You know what I mean? And WandaVision showed me that I was completely wrong, because you can tell compelling stories, great stories, without having crazy big reveals. And I mean, they did have some crazy big reveals, obviously. And even with that, they didn't change too much of the status quo, but they actually just gave us time to really flesh in on WandaVision, on Wanda Maximoff, and then gave us just really funny, compelling parts. The Malcolm in the Middle episode, let's see if I can find that, was not something I expected at all. You know, they showed us like 50, 60, 70, look at this is incredible. They showed us the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, which we expected, but what I really enjoyed was that it went like every 7 years rather than it being once a decade. So it really did follow how television changes, because generations don't change on just a 10-year basis. You know, every decade is not like something new just happens. There is a moment where things change and then we get back into it. So I truly loved WandaVision. It had me on the edge of my seat every 6 weeks. Me and my brother, we stay up to 3 a.m. on a Friday, which means that my Fridays are completely done because now I'm waking up late, but it's worth it. And there's the very few Fridays that maybe I fell asleep early or had something to do Saturday morning and I couldn't do it. I was upset. I could not wait to wake up in the morning and do it. So it's incredible that they were able to actually keep that up with and keep that going on the newest show, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which I'm enjoying. Like I said, for some reason I wasn't as excited about it when I was just seeing the announcement of things. When I was seeing Loki, I was almost, you know what, why I wasn't excited? Because they had never given us a lot of information on Falcon and Winter Soldier. They never showed anything about the transition. Oh, but it was so exciting to see U.S. Agent on screen. I've been coloring U.S. Agent in coloring books since I was 8 or 9 years old. I also think it's a very interesting twist on what they're doing with Flag Smasher. Flag Smasher could have been a very specific thing, and they're taking this on a whole new twist, and I'm enjoying that. Now, to get into what I was referring to, oh, actually, do you see this picture here? Baron Zemo and Agent 13, and some people are speculating that Agent 13 might end up being a bad guy in this, and when I see this picture, it makes me speculate as well. Alright. Woo! You are doing your thing, Marvel. You are absolutely killing. So, next thing I'm going to get into was the movie that I was actually referring to earlier. I watched it at 12 o'clock at night on a Saturday, and completely forgot that I watched it, which is a shame because I was dying. I was impressed. I was amazed by the work of art that Eric Andre was able to do with Bad Trip. I'll be the first to admit I was not the biggest Eric Andre show fan. I didn't watch it. I probably never even watched a full episode of it. I understand that now that Eric Andre, his whole point is to what apparently was to make celebrities want to like walk off the show and want to leave it completely, and that's how I felt watching his show. So I was never a big fan of it, but I really think that he's been able to capture a new spirit and capture a new light and capture a new levity with the work that he's creating. It's innovative, as the British wrestling podcast that I listen to now have me saying. And then he's really able to find a story that's beyond just like, I'm gonna gross you out and I'm gonna shock you. I think that was my issue with it. It felt so much like shock value before, and I'm not really the biggest fan of shock value. But he is really telling compelling stories now. And I love to be at the end of it and to not know exactly what was real, what was fake, and what he was able to get away with. It was really dope. Shout out to you. You are killing it right now, Eric Andre. And I never thought that I would be such a big Eric Andre fan, especially off of a lot of years of not really being the biggest Eric Andre fan. And so much of what we talked about so far has been what Disney Plus. That Trip came out in the movies, but most people aren't watching it now on Netflix. And I've had a free subscription to Apple TV for a few months now. And I think the reason why I never really got into it was because, well, one, I think I had a bias against the Apple TV trailers in the beginning. They were like, Jennifer Aniston, Steve Carell, we have big famous people, come watch our shows. I'm not going to tell you what the show's about. That was extremely unappealing to me. You know, it was like, felt pretentious. It felt extremely bougie. It's not a smart marketing scheme, in my opinion. But somewhere along the line, I got a free subscription to Apple TV, and I never really used it. And the first thing that I did end up watching on it was probably the best thing that I could have watched, because it completely opened up my mind. So this is a play called 12 Angry Men and Women, the true stories of being a black man in America today. So I guess now that I'm looking at this, there was a play called 12 Angry Men, True Stories of Being a Black Man in America Today, and recently Apple TV put up a new version of it, which included a story of Breonna Taylor. So now it's 12 Angry Men and Women. So that makes sense why I wasn't able to find too much pictures of it and information on it. But this is, we're looking at like a YouTube version of it. So essentially what it was is they took monologues and they took pieces from, I guess, newspaper articles, from true interviews of people related who were either abused by cops, or in the case of Breonna Taylor, the family of Breonna Taylor, and their retelling of what their experience was finding out that Breonna was dead. And it was a rough 45 minutes. It was infuriating. It was angry. Anger inducing. But it was also incredible, and it was also a reminder of a lot of the content that I'm not seeing, you know, because so much content is superhero shows and dirty cartoons nowadays, that strong monologues just made by people can be so impactful. It makes me miss theater. It makes me miss going out into the world. And it reminds me of what HBO was doing 15, 20 years ago, when I would just stumble across something that blew my mind on HBO and then forgot about it, and then I'm having a compelling conversation with somebody a year and a half later, and I'm like, where did I get all of these pieces of information from? Oh, it was that HBO show that I completely forgot about, that I didn't get to tell anybody about. So, you know, maybe I misjudged you, Apple TV. Maybe I was wrong. I still think you did a terrible marketing scheme. Now, talking about dirty cartoons, we're gonna end this off by talking about two dirty, gruesome, messed up cartoons that I've been watching recently. So on the album, like I said, my music is right here. On the album Too Cool, I have a song called Snake Jazz, and Snake Jazz is a reference to Rick and Morty. Huge Rick and Morty fan here, as well as just about everybody who I hang out with. But while we're waiting for Rick and Morty to come back, there are these two other shows that have really caught my attention. Now, the first one is a show called Invincible. It's based on a comic book by Robert Kirkman, and it's essentially the story of Superman. If Superman had a son and the world was really messed up, you got like a Justice League parody, but it's gruesome. They talk about sex. It's, oh wow, I wish I didn't see that, because that's kind of a spoiler. But it is, the closest thing that I could say is like The Boys meets like a Static Shock Saturday morning cartoon. It gets into school, it gets into relationships, it gets into family relationships, all while telling crazy one episode storylines. I guess they're not really exactly one episode, but you get my point. It is definitely the closest thing to like an adult version of X-Men Evolution. It's gruesome, it's bloody, it's fun, and I think that's the most important part about it. Actually, it's just fun, and you know, some things you have to connect so much, you have to be so into. I feel like you can just really like this and just enjoy it for being fun. And then the last thing we're going to talk about is probably a show that does deserve but also doesn't deserve the comparisons to Rick and Morty, because it is not at all like Rick and Morty, but for some reason it also does feel like Rick and Morty. So I think one of the creators might have been associated with Rick and Morty at some times, but it's actually more in every way effed up than Rick and Morty. The whole storyline, that's probably the favorite storyline of the show, which they even say on a meta part of the, like, look at this. They killed people. That's what that means, and they buried people. But the episode, the storyline that's the most compelling, which is this storyline from season 1 that's continuing to season 2, is really dark. It's actually like one of the most messed up things I've probably ever seen in television. But because it's a cartoon and because it's whimsical, they get away with it, and they really get to have fun with it. And this one's on Hulu, Solar Opposites. It's only maybe, actually the whole season 2 premiered, but I might be 3 or 4 seasons into it. Invincible, we're about 3 seasons into. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, 3 seasons. We're about 3 episodes into. Falcon and the Winter Soldier is the same. So there's so much good content. On top of this, I know there's that HBO Max show called Made with Love, which I'm actually very much looking forward to watch the first episode of. There is the HBO show called The Irregulars that's also coming. There's a show called The Nevers that's coming out. Alright? Insecure has to come back. So much damn good content, and I'll be here every Monday on a Manic Music Media Monday to talk about what I'm watching, to hear about what you are watching, and to hopefully find out something from you, let you find out something from me. With all that being said, I didn't even really get to talk about music this week. We'll hold that off until next week. I'll really be able to get into talk about A Day to Remember's album, because A Day to Remember is a band that has been holding me down for well over 15 years, and somehow they always seem to be exactly in sync with where I am at the moment, and I appreciate that. There's a lot more things to talk about. Make sure you subscribe on all your DSPs, whatever streaming service you listen to. Tyler PSwitch Dow. I got a new album, Too Cool. Dropped that in December. Have a bunch of new singles that are coming out on the way. We're always dropping music. We're always working on new music, so there's always going to be something to listen to. Check out the YouTube page. Always got videos coming out. Manic Music Media Mondays. Also check out Cool Company if you want to see some of the wrestling content I do and some of the other stuff I talk about. My name is Tyler PSwitch Dow. That P is silent. I hope you have a great, productive week. Keep your cool, because every day is cool anyway, right?